Welcome to We the People's News. Today I'm going to show you how the media is biased and are labeling the Proud Boys as white supremacists and evil, and we are not. And I'm going to show you how the media does it, piece by piece. So this is what they do. It's the great label war. They label people things to shut them down. That is what's going on in America.
The clash between members of the Proud Boys, a far-right men's group, and masked members of Antifa, an anti-fascist group, was caught on surveillance video on 82nd between Lexington and Park. Police say they had 48 officers and other personnel surrounding the club on 83rd, keeping the groups away from one another. But these individuals, they say, got around police on another street.
Tactically, surprise was when that group came around the side. They flanked us. For the most part, I think the response was pretty good.
Far-right group. See, already labeling. We believe in freedom in the West, and that the West is the best, and the idea of freedom is the best. And that isn't far right, that's American. But anyway, let's go to 45 cops are there, plus plainclothes groups. So the police were there, and why were they there? We will find that out. But Antifa outflanked the police. So they were doing things, they weren't following the cops' instructions, which is lawlessness and there to cause trouble.
Another man flagged down officers to say he was robbed of his backpack by members of the other group a few blocks away.
Look, they already robbed one man. Lawlessness. Chaos. Is that what you want for America?
The night of violence came after the founder of the Proud Boys, Gavin McInnes, spoke at the Metropolitan Republican Club Friday night, but the club says it was vandalized before the event even took place. It provided this surveillance video of damage done outside the building at 2 a.m. Friday.
Broken windows, some graffiti, which is commonly the A in the anarchist sign drawn on the front door, and some leaflets that were left at the location.
The club says it also received threatening calls in the days before, but police say those were not immediately reported.
Antifa is organized terror. They broke out the windows of the club, spray painted the club. This is all the night before. They were there to cause trouble, and they found it. Is that the Proud Boys' fault?
Today, Governor Cuomo blasted Republicans, the club, and President Trump for what occurred.
Why the Republican Party would bring a group that has a history of violence. I think they are desperate for the midterms. They are trying to fire up their base because they're afraid of the energy in the Democratic Party, the so-called blue wave.
So Cuomo thinks, even though his police were circumvented, Antifa didn't listen to the police's instructions and came around and attacked the Proud Boys, and he blames the Proud Boys. And the violence that they've been involved in is self-defense from Antifa at other rallies that attack citizens, throw urine on them, throw feces on them. And Antifa is a communist group. No one is mentioning that. They are communists.
The Metropolitan Republican Club released a statement that reads in part, he had spoken at the club approximately a year and a half ago, at which time there was no hint of violence. We do invite speakers to the club with differing political points of view, some we agree with and some which we do not. Now you can still see officers posted up outside of the club here at this hour. The New York State GOP chairman snapped back at Cuomo, accusing him of politicizing what happened and spreading misinformation.
Look, they spoke there a year and a half ago, and there was no violence. Why? Antifa wasn't there. That's who caused the violence. The Proud Boys were being escorted out by the police, and Antifa attacked them. Who is the cause of that? Do we not have the right to self-defense now in this country? Is that what Cuomo was saying?
The NYPD so far has arrested 3 people. They are looking for at least 10 others. If you have any information, give them a call. We're live tonight on the Upper East Side. Alice Gaynor, CBS 2 News.
Thank you, Alice.
The Metropolitan Republican Club in New York had invited the Proud Boys to show up and have some sort of event.
Which they have every right to do in the United States of America. Last I looked, we were free.
And if you don't know who the Proud Boys are, their leader, Gavin McInnes, is very vocal in support of violence. In fact, we're going to give you several examples of him advocating for violence in just a minute. He's also a co-founder of Vice, and he is a proud white male. He's said a lot of misogynistic things, homophobic things, and he's been pushing back against any and all progress made for non-white males ever since, I don't know, like 2016 was when he really became vocal about all of this. Now, with that said, there was unfortunately a violent situation following the event at the Metropolitan Republican Club. The Proud Boys left the event, and as they were leaving, surveillance footage shows a member of possibly Antifa. All we know right now is for sure they were protesters.
Possibly Antifa. All we know is they're protesters. They are the ones that caused the violence. They were there stalking them. The Proud Boys were being escorted out by the police and had to wait actually a half an hour because the police knew it was a dangerous situation. They were trying to rein in the 100 Antifa members that were there.
We believe they might be members of Antifa. One of them threw a bottle or some object at the Proud Boys, and then that led to a physical altercation. We have the surveillance footage for you, so let's take a quick look at that.
So, the guys in the masks are the counter-protesters.
Look, possibly Antifa. Masked men throw a bottle at you, and you don't have the right to defend yourself. But do you hear what they say? I mean, it's just counter protesters. There was no protest. They were the protesters, quote unquote. No, they were Antifa. They were there on purpose to cause trouble. And guess what? They found it. And because they got beat up by causing the violence, their actions caused the violence. What he fails to tell you is the Proud Boys were being escorted by the police. And Antifa still attacked them from behind, throwing things at them.
They throw something, and now the Proud Boys guys in the red hats, I mean, this is absurd. They have uniforms on both sides, right? And then they get into a fight, and then there's a lot more Proud Boy guys there because they just had an event.
Another lie. There was 100 Antifa members there. 6 of them came there. They'll say there's 3, but 3 ran. 50% of their people ran when the shit hit the fan. But there was 100 Antifa members there. There was 20 Proud Boy members. So they were outnumbered. They were being, the violence came from Antifa.
There's dozens and dozens of them. So they take control of the situation and start beating down what are presumably the Antifa guys.
Look at your picture. Are there dozens and dozens and dozens of Proud Boys?
And of course, once they got them down, kicking them, stomping them, punching them over and over and over again,
they know nothing
because
about
that's
this.
who they
They're
are.
biased. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to paint the Proud Boys as white supremacists so they can shut them down because it is a great label war. That's what the left does. They label you to shut you down because they think if you're a white supremacist, that violence against you is justified. That is why they try to label you that.
Now, following this incident, the very first thing that happened was the cops arrested 3 of the protesters. And I believe that that was the right thing to do. Don't throw things, don't physically assault anyone. If you do, you should be arrested. That is the law. However, the Proud Boys faced absolutely no arrests, no charges, no nothing until there was pressure from the city council and also Andrew Cuomo.
In America, you have the right to defend yourself. It was a dangerous situation. The cops knew it. The Proud Boys knew it. Everybody knew it. And who was making it dangerous? The 100 Antifa members out there that had broke windows, already did violence. And this is amazing that no Proud Boy should have been arrested. They were defending themselves. They were being terrorized by a communist organization.
They were essentially telling the NYPD, you need to do something about these white nationalists that have been going around the country brawling with people. And there have been multiple stories involving the Proud Boys doing just that.
The white nationalists, do you hear that? See, there's the label. What's amazing is I went to the Trump rally in Murfreesboro, Illinois, and met my president for the very first time. We are doing a bad job of being white nationalists because he is black. We have members of every race. We have homosexuals. We even have a tranny as Proud Boys. Our idea of the West is the best is not about race. It's about freedom. There's no West isn't a color. It's about freedom.
And so the NYPD essentially says now that they are looking to charge 9 of them, and they're asking for help identifying them. They've posted images of various members of the Proud Boys online, and they're hoping to find these people. Now,
in the old days, they used to have a uniform too. They wore brown shirts. Now they wear red hats. Now, I deplore violence on all sides. And so if those are Antifa protesters, whoever they are, it doesn't really matter if they call themselves Antifa or not, but if they do, it's still 100% wrong. What are you throwing a bottle for and encouraging fascism?
See how he just spun that? It doesn't matter who they are. Why not name them for who they are? Why not name them for the communist group that wants to violently overthrow America and our freedom? Why not name them, young turds? Huh? Why not? You are so biased. What do you mean fascism justify? They're helping spread fascism by violently attacking a group you're labeling fascist? No, they didn't want them speaking there. They terrorized them. They are the fascists. Not the Proud Boys. They were minding their own business till they were attacked.
All you're going to do is get them to commit more violence and in their minds justify the violence. And in the minds of other people, and perhaps unfortunately the Republican Party, justify the violence. You think you're helping? You're not helping. It's an incredibly stupid tactic. Do you know who you want on your side? You want the cops on your side, okay?
Self-defense right justifies the violence. When you are attacked, you have the right to defend yourself. This guy, the young turds, man, they're just full of shit. That's all. It's unbelievable. They don't report the facts. They spin things. They selectively edit out the truth.
But no, in this case, the cops come to help. And he says, nobody wants to talk to you. One of the guys who just got beat down says, we don't call 911. Well, you're an idiot. So the next time you're going to get your head stomped in and nobody's going to come to help you. The cop says, we're here to help you. And he says, get the F away from me. This is the Antifa guy. I just got punched 70 times. Yeah, that's why he showed up. Now,
no, the cops didn't show up because he got punched. The cops were already there trying to keep Antifa from attacking people that are having a meeting. This is just unbelievable how they spin this.
If the cops do the wrong thing, then okay, then you don't trust them and you call it out and you look for justice, right? If cops come to help, you take their help. I don't know if you know this, they have more weapons than the Proud Boys or you guys. And they are backed up by the rest of the government and the rest of us, okay? So I think I get the frustration with cops. We talk about it on the show all the time. That is not the time to show your frustration with cops. And so if you think you're going to fight them in the streets, it's a stupid, idiotic strategy.
Yet the same group you won't name, or you think is, or you want to downplay, that is communist, gets in cops' faces. They beat up a reporter. 10 of them beat a reporter up in the afternoon, and the young turds don't even mention that. You see, Antifa is a communist organization that is calling for the violent overthrow of America in our system.
Jeffrey, go ahead. Let's be clear also about what's going on here. The theme here is, I'm Donald Trump and I'll protect you from the scary black people. Antifa is widely perceived as an African-American organization.
Now we got CNN saying Antifa is misunderstood. I mean, what is going on? This is the Communist News Network. They are backing communists. That's what they are doing.
And this is just part of the same story of LeBron James and Don Lemon and Maxine Waters and the NFL players and the UCLA basketball players. This is about black versus white. This is about Donald Trump's appeal to racism, and it just happens all the time, and we never say it, or we don't say it enough for what it is, but that's what's going on.
Whose fault is it, according to CNN? Donald Trump's. Oh, why, they are just nuts with this racist word. Racist, racist, racist. Who else is sick of that word? Who else is sick of it?
All right, so here's where we're going to bring in Gavin McInnes. He was the keynote speaker at that event. Gavin is also host of CRTV's Get Off My Lawn. Now, Gavin, I want to ask you how it all started, and then I've got a follow-up question about some language used by those on the right who were engaged in the scuffle. So first and foremost, how did this all jump off? How did it all begin?
Well, you're jumping right to the very end. Is that what you're talking about? The fight at the end of the night?
The fight at the end of the night. Yeah. Oh, you could
Because-
run. You could run through. You were doing a speech at the Metropolitan Republican Club.
I announced the Otoya Yamaguchi funeral ceremony, which is obviously tongue-in-cheek, on Tuesday.
If you don't know who that is, that's a socialist in Japan that was killed by the Japanese. But that's not the point. They were just there having fun, having a meeting. Why can't Republicans or Proud Boys use comedy? I mean, they say, you know, threatening to kill the President of the United States. Our current one is now comedy, according to comedians. How many have talked about that? It's just unbelievable, the bias of the media.
That's when the harassing phone calls started. They're insulting and threatening the venue. Then on the night before, the venue is vandalized, windows smashed, locks glued shut, graffiti on it, a manifesto on the door threatening, "This is only the beginning and we are not civil."
Isn't it amazing how the young turds completely left that out and selectively edited the truth out? Why didn't they report those facts? Why? To make the Proud Boys look bad and to slander the Proud Boy name.
Then we get there, they're harassing people. There's a massive fight that no one in the media is talking about, where about 10 Antifa jumped on a reporter, a sort of a citizen journalist, beat the crap out of him, took all his stuff. They were caught by a guy named Gavin Wax, who works at a magazine called The Spiel.
That is another fact that all media is leaving out. And I tried to Google it, which I will show you in a little bit. And that completely left out of this media report. I mean, this just shows what Antifa was there for. They beat up a reporter. They don't believe in the free press. They don't believe in rights. They want to take your rights away and make this a communist country.
He tackled them. The police got involved. They arrested those three guys. Those were three Antifa protesters beating up a random journalist because they didn't want to be photographed. So then I do the talk, yelling, screaming, harassing everyone. We get outside. They're all being chased and yelled at as they leave. The police have to escort them. Eventually,
see, the police were escorting the Proud Boys out of there because of the dangerous situation Antifa created outside.
The Proud Boys are told, "You guys have to stay inside. You're too dangerous. It's too risky." So they stay inside for half an hour.
The Proud Boys complied with the police. Antifa is not. That is lawful against lawlessness. Which side are you on?
Eventually, they're escorted out with a police escort. Honestly, about a cop per person, it seemed.
Yeah.
And oh, sorry. Before they did that, I left, and I came out. I had a plastic sword, and I was taunting them, going,
Okay, now let me ask you about that, because the media is reporting that you had a samurai sword, and it was
Once again, media bias, saying he had a samurai sword, and it was a broken toy sword. So, do they ever get any facts straight? Why does anybody listen to the mainstream media? It's beyond me. How many times you got to catch them lying before you stop listening to them?
a real sword, and you were brandishing a weapon in Manhattan, and you should have been arrested. So it was a toy sword?
It's a toy sword I used for the comedy sketch inside. That's how insane all these people are. A broken toy sword that I got at a toy store. And I'm joking, Otoya Yamaguchi, the nationalists who killed the socialists in 1960.
Right.
And then this bottle of urine at me. They were throwing bottles of urine.
That is who the young turds are defending. People that throw urine on fellow citizens of the United States.
So then the Proud Boys are eventually allowed to leave. They have the police with them. The crowd, it's 20 guys, so some start to go a little longer behind than others. Then 3 of the Antifa, who have been bugging people all night, finally get their chance. They ambush these 2 stragglers at the back, take one of their MAGA hats, which they call scalping, and then they got beat up. The Proud Boys turned around and started beating them badly. And then other Proud Boys were saying, stop, pulling them off. The police show up within, I'd say, 5 to 10 seconds, like instantaneously, because they were already there. These guys were just at the back of the line. They break it up, send everyone away. The end.
All right, now, to play devil's advocate, what appeared to be a couple of the Proud Boys apparently were caught on camera using pejoratives for homosexuals, things of that nature. So talk to me a little bit about that, and if it did happen, and the context is correct, doesn't that enable the left, doesn't that just play into their narrative?
Yeah, it's a terrible thing to say. If I had a time machine, if If I had a time machine, I'd tell them to avoid, like, if someone steals your hat, just let them keep it. Not that I control these guys. I'm the founder, not the leader. But yeah, it's a terrible word to use. But, you know, when someone's adrenaline's pumping, he's going to say, "Are you brave now?" F word.
Right.
He didn't mean it like it was some sort of homosexual attack. But that is why these guys were there all night. They were begging for the optics of that moment so they could take this one 4-second part and then ignore the days and days of abuse and terror that Antifa was inflicting on this club.
It's unbelievable. The media spins this into blaming the Proud Boys when in reality, if Antifa wasn't there, there would have been no violence whatsoever. That's a guarantee.
How many Antifa were there, Gavin, as opposed to how many Proud Boys and people on your side?
There was 20 Proud Boys. The total attendees of my talk is about 150 to 200. The press keeps getting that wrong. And out of Antifa, I would say there was about 100.
And there's your stats from an eyewitness at the scene. Antifa was there to cause trouble.
Wow. And what was the content and context of the talk? What were you speaking about?
Oh, I did the little jokey ceremony at the beginning where I killed my friend Ryan Katsu Rivera as the Japanese socialist, and I had a Sapporo with me, and we poured some out for our dead homie. And then I just made fun of Antifa and socialists in there, and I joked around and said, "What do they want? Like, I don't even understand what they want. They want to dismantle capitalism? How? Or who do they think we are? We want to commit genocide of trans people and disabled. How do you do that? Like, what's their logic?" And we all just had a laugh at how totally illogical all their tropes are.
And how do you think this will play in terms of, you know, what do you think is being communicated on the internet and other places, and what will the message be ultimately from what took place?
The DNC won the narrative on this one and have completely flipped it Freaky Friday style into being evil Nazi does evil talk about murder, and then a hate gang goes roaming the streets, beating innocent people, and eventually pummels some poor homosexual who was just going to get groceries.
All right, Gavin, in the 30 seconds we have left, give me 3 or 4 bullet points that if this clip were used on social media, you would promote to debunk what the left is saying. If you're saying it's false, rebut it.
I would say the clip you're seeing is terrible, but it is the culmination of 3 days of domestic terror from Antifa, where they just kept picking and picking and picking and trying to start a war. Eventually, they grabbed the wrong hat and got beat up.
All righty. Gavin McInnes, host of CRTV's Get Off My Lawn. Gavin, always great to see you, my friend. Thanks for being with us.
And they sure did spin it. They have spun this into purging all Proud Boys from Facebook now. That's what this has led to. And they are trying to control what you hear, what you see. That's what it's all about, labeling people so they can silence them. That is not America. That is not, we have free speech in this country. And there's no such thing as hate speech, the Supreme Court has said. So if you believe in America, join us in the fight against Antifa. Yeah, I Googled because Gavin McInnes said that a reporter is beat up by Antifa, and I noticed nobody has reported that in any of the mainstream media. And so I Googled that question: reporter beat up by Antifa at New York Republican Club. Forgive my spelling. Pro-Trump gang seen in footage assaulting anti-fascist protesters. Huffington Post. Gotta love it. 3 more arrested in brawl. Okay, Proud Boys fight in New York City, man attack. Says Antifa tried to rob them while they're trying to rob citizens. They didn't listen to the police that were there. There were 48 police that were trying to keep the two separate, that were escorting out the Proud Boys. They were having a meeting. They were the ones being stalked. Proud Boy filmed beating protesters. You gotta love it. You know, Rolling Stone in New York. I mean, if you read that and you didn't know anything, you would believe it because Rolling Stone magazine told you that they're just protesters, right? Kind of like when the BLM protesters hunted down white people to hurt and assault them. They were just protesters. They weren't rioters. They weren't criminals. Video shows alleged assault of protesters at their event featuring Proud Boys. Video alleges show protesters beating protesters. Again, it's on and on and on. This is how they smear you in the media. They label you so that no one will listen to you. They silence you. It's the great label war that we have going on. And what labels do is split us all up into little groups. It's called tribalism. It's a step backwards, not forward, Mr. Obama and Hillary. It is not a step forward. It is a step backwards. Because what made America great was when we all united as Americans. Not as this group and this race and this gender and that gender. Man, they make up more labels than you can keep up with. But I mean, it goes on and on. Far right wing Proud Boys beat up anti-fascist protesters. I mean, what is this word with the protesters?